Hello, everyone, and welcome to KongaCast, where we discuss all things video games, especially relating to Nintendo. I'm your host, Ryan, and I'm here today with my good friend Adonis Givettis. Adonis, say hello.
Hello, Ryan. Hello, everybody. You may be wondering why I have black paint on my face. And you're going to keep wondering because I'm not going to tell you. So let's talk about some video games.
I like it. So, we got a good couple topics here for our second episode back, and let's just get right into it. So, wanted to start off today, Adonis, with probably a topic you're very interested in, and that is the potential acquisition of From Software from Sony. Uh, this would be vis-a-vis the parent company Kadokawa, reportedly thrilled that they are being targeted by Sony for a potential purchase. And Kadokawa is far-reaching in kind of the IP and kind of the studios that it owns, but one of them is From Software, which of course you're a big fan of, and it's a studio we've talked about numerous times here on the show. So, just some of the details on it was reportedly Kadokawa is looking to be acquired by another Korean company. This Sony acquisition would be something of kind of like a sweep in to avoid that. And Sony has mutual interest in the acquisition. Now, no official word on anything yet, but all signs seem to point to this acquisition happening, which apparently the employees of Kadokawa or the employees of From Software like. So, wanted to get your thoughts on this one, Adonis.
So this is a really interesting situation, right? Because the threat of a full buyout is coming from that other company that's not Sony. I don't know what the name of that company is called. It's probably somewhere here in the article, but it really isn't important. That company is going after Kadokawa because of their far-reaching media output, right? They do lots of like anime stuff, lots of games. We know a lot about those, and all kinds of like Kadokawa is a very big and very popular company. So I don't blame the one going for the full buyout. But what Sony is doing is really interesting, and I'm not at all surprised that From Software is um, happy about it because From Software and Sony have worked together for like quite a while now. Like Bloodborne came out in 2016, so the partnership, peaked there, I guess you could say. But um, you know, they've worked together for quite a while, and Sony isn't going after the full buyout option here. They're just buying enough of Kadokawa to prevent the full buyout, right? And it's a really like honestly, it's a good move. Sony is doing something that I kind of agree with, which rare, very rare indeed. You know how I feel about Sony, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation. It's not like a lot of acquisitions we've seen in the industry over the last several years, where it's one big publisher or one big studio looking to expand, looking to acquire IP or acquire studios. This is more akin to when Nintendo bought Next Level Games, when it's like a studio that has money is looking to keep someone close to the chest that's at risk of being bought out by another force. So it's more similar to that. Makes it a little more interesting in my eyes. Um, and Kadokawa, like you mentioned, doesn't really just own From Software. They own a lot of anime and properties, a lot of manga properties. So it would be a big acquisition if Sony were to buy a controlling stake in the company. And my only concern with this would be the potential for Sony, which already owns Funimation and already owns Crunchyroll, would all of a sudden own Kadokawa and would then have like a sort of monopoly on the anime industry. But that's anime. We don't have to talk too much on that part as this is a video game podcast. But that would be like one concern of mine. But it would be kind of cool, and I'm sure you might agree to see From Software kind of fall under the umbrella of Sony, whether they would all of a sudden become a um, Sony exclusive developer. I kind of doubt. I kind of see them continuing to say multiplat, but you would get maybe better collaboration from Sony with From Software and Bandai Namco on the Soul series, the Elden Ring franchise, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna pump the brakes a little bit on being happy that From Software is gonna be more so under the Sony umbrella, because I just distrust Sony so unbelievably much because of the whole Helldiver situation and all the other weird things they're doing. You know, like they're just not a great company altogether, in my opinion. That is my opinion alone. Um, you know, because like I don't want to see them become exclusive. That is the worst case scenario for me. I hate exclusivity. I think all games should be able to reach all platforms. Everybody should be able to play. Everyone should be able to dive. Hell dive, that is. And but the thing is that a lot of good could come out of this. You made a really good point on the anime monopoly. That's totally true. I didn't
Yeah.
even think of that. I'm not a huge anime enjoyer, but that definitely does kind of like err on the side of monopoly. But the one thing that I am praying to sweet Miyazaki is that a Sony, more Sony inclusion into From Software means we are much more likely to see more Bloodborne. Oh my God, I would do anything to see more Bloodborne. So that's my optimism about this whole scenario is maybe now that Sony's more involved, we could see more Bloodborne.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I can never remember if it's Bloodborne or another Souls like. Bloodborne's the one that's never gotten a 60 FPS patch for PS5 or anything like that. Is that right?
Yeah, it's never gotten any touch ups. The community is the only side of the of Bloodborne that's improved it. Like people have modded PS4 Pros for 60 FPS. Now it's being I won't say the word, but it starts with an E and it ends in Mulator. Is working on PC, 60 FPS. It all is
Mm.
neither here nor there for legal reasons, but yeah, hasn't gotten it, and it's one of the best games ever made. It's like second to Elden Ring for me.
It's so crazy to me that this game, I mean, From Software does a great job polishing their titles, that this one's never gotten kind of like a current gen patch. You know,
I
it's still
know.
confined to the PS4 era performance. Yeah, this is a
Yeah,
sidetrack, but just a comment for myself here.
yeah, of course. Like it is crazy, but there's nuance to it, right? Because everybody always says like, we want Bloodborne, we want Bloodborne, we want this, we want that. But a lot of niche things like Bloodborne, when they actually do come out, they actually don't make that much money, which kind of sucks. It's like I said, it's a little more niche, but Bloodborne has gotten to the point where it's been so long and it's so beloved that it probably would knock out like the sales out of the park. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about the collaboration with From Software and Sony, with this potential buyout happening, I think you would see a lot more collaboration on things like that. Maybe a revival of the Bloodborne franchise or a spiritual successor. Um, I totally see that happening. From my understanding, Bloodborne was made in collaboration with Sony, so it's part Sony, part From Software. So you would kind of need them to kind of work together for any sort of movement on a current gen patch or a sequel or a spin-off, anything of that sort. So,
Yeah.
uh, gonna keep my eye on this acquisition. Like I said, I kind of expect it to go through, or at least, it's gonna be a partial buyout on Sony's end, just to make sure From Software doesn't go anywhere that they wouldn't want them to go, and kind of keep them kind of close to house. So that's kind of what I'm expecting here.
Yeah, we'll see.
But moving on to our next topic. So this is one that propped up in 2024. We all know the famous game Pal World that released last year, developed by PocketPair. It's kind of this. I'm not even going to call it a Pokemon clone because it doesn't even play like a Pokemon game for the most part, but it
Yeah.
definitely has Pokemon components, most namely the monsters roaming the world that you can capture. And the monsters look strikingly like Pokemon, uh, at an initial glance. So there's that. Uh, so the story we want to talk about specifically, though, is that PocketPair, the creators of Pal World, are being sued by Nintendo and the Pokemon Company for patent infringement, not copyright infringement, but patent infringement, which makes this a little more interesting. It's also interesting that this lawsuit is coming some 9, 10 months after the release of PocketPair. If I remember correctly, around the launch of Pocket Pair, the Pokemon Company even put out a statement that said nothing like we're going to go after them, but it was more along the lines of we always look to protect our IP. If there's ever a game that would infringe on that, we would, act in our
Yeah.
best interests. Something very corporate, very vague was said like along those lines. Lo and behold, though, 9, 10 months later, we have a court case going forward where Nintendo is looking to sue the Pocket Pair. So again, patent infringement, not a copyright infringement, which makes this even more interesting. They're not going after them for the designs of the Pokemon or anything, it appears, at this time, but rather they're going at them for a patent infringement.
Yeah, that's just it's really not at all unexpected. But it still just feels so bad. Now, this is not a new story. This has been around for quite a while. This happened when we were on hiatus. And Pal World took the world by storm. I'm pretty sure it shattered the record for most concurrent players or something like that on Steam, on
Yeah.
SteamDB, which is crazy. It sold like 5 million copies in 3 days, which, like, that alone blows my mind. Which, the reason I bring that up is that it doesn't shock me at all that Nintendo went after them, because Nintendo sees a dollar sign, um, of course. But my whole sticking point with this situation is the grounds for the lawsuit: patent infringement. What is the patent, Ryan?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what the patent is. The patent's on a game mechanic where the character holds a ball and throws it at a monster and catches it. That's it. That frustrates me to no end, because it totally, like, it takes that out of the video game sphere. Like, the developers cannot use that ever again. And where does the line get drawn on that, right? Are they just going to keep? Oh, sorry, I just smacked my mic. Are they going to keep patenting stuff to where innovation is just like completely impossible? Like, where are they going to draw the line, right? I really think that's a disgusting move on Nintendo's part. This is my opinion. This is all my opinion. I understand that people may feel differently, but to me, the anything that ruins innovation in game dev is just not great in my opinion. You know?
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it too. Like, I don't love the idea of patents. I certainly appreciate, a company kind of doing their R&D and wanting to get some return on that. If they're going to do some R&D and say this mechanic is something people are going to really like. We just researched this. This is something people are going to like. We want to protect that with a patent so that we be the sole user of that patent, or if people want, they can buy the patent and they can use it in their own game. I appreciate, a studio wanting to get a return on their R&D investment. I still don't think that that's a good enough reason for like patents to exist in the way that they do, frankly, currently. So the way I see it is the patent you just laid out is just a game mechanic. It's kind of lame to kind of have that like kind of be like gate kept where other
Yeah.
developers aren't really allowed to use that mechanic. And I don't really see it as something that's like super super um special to Nintendo or the Pokemon Company. It's like, oh man, they did so much work getting that single mechanic that you laid out. The fact that your character throws a ball to capture a monster. Like, that is the literal patent that is being gone after here. I don't think that's like super valid to the point that that deserves to have like a stamp on it that says like no one's allowed to use this except us. Like, so to me, Nintendo's certainly no angel, but to me, it's kind of like don't hate the player, hate the game in this situation. I just don't like the idea of like patents being used in this way or really being available in this way. And I think that's kind of the culprit here because like we all know Nintendo is going to pull whatever shoestrings that they can to get what they want, and this is
Of
a tool
course.
that they have that's just currently available in the market. So like to me, I'd rather just not have this tool available in the toolbox for anyone to use. That's kind of how I see it. Now,
Yeah.
is this really the be all end all what Nintendo wanted to do by going after Pocket Pair? I kind of doubt it. I think they wanted to go after Pocket Pair for copyright infringement. I I'm not gonna say I'm not gonna sit here and say like Power World completely ripped them off. they went into Pokemon games and ripped the models and used them as the base for their own models of their own monsters. I'm not going to say that because I honestly am not knowledgeable enough on that subject. I don't know how you would even do that or how you
Yeah.
would even compare that kind of thing. What I will say though is I think Nintendo wanted to go down that route, but probably didn't have enough evidence or enough backing that they would say, "Hey, if we take this to court, we're definitely going to win." Maybe they were more like 50%, 60% we're going to win, but that's not good enough for Nintendo. Let's get them on this. Let's get them on something smaller where we're still kind of going after them and we're going to like try to get some money out of them and still show people, "Hey, don't do anything related to our copyright because even if we can't get you on the copyright infringement. We're going to try to get you on something else." That's kind of how I see this specific situation with PocketPair.
Yeah, and after hearing you say that, I can definitely agree. I can align a lot more with that sentiment, right? Because they're not. I don't think they're necessarily going to take. They're trying to take down Pocket Pair or Pal World. It's just like be careful. Like we're gonna hit you with this little thing here for whatever, like I don't know, like 30 grand or something small. We have no idea, but it doesn't seem like they're going for blood here. It seems like a warning shot. Like do this again, and you're gonna get in trouble because we're Nintendo and we have almost unlimited assets, right? Like we can take you down if we need to. Um, that doesn't stop it from being any less gross for me. I
Yeah.
think it's really gross, but that requires nuance, right? Because their business culture is very different in Japan than it is here in America and a lot of other countries too. So like to us, it may seem weird or out of place, but over in Japan, it may not be so. It may not be so weird. Like I don't know what country Pocket Pair operates out of. I don't. I have no idea, so I can't comment. But I know that Nintendo is in Japan, and I know business laws and business culture in Japan is very stringent. So to wrap everything
Yeah.
up in a nice, neat little bow, this sucks. This is bad for the game industry, in my opinion. But I don't think it's like the end of the world for Pocket Pair.
Yeah, it sucks because like it's like Nintendo punching down. Like Pocket Pair is an indie developer.
Oh yeah,
They have like two or three games that have been released. Like they're not like a big fish at all. So it sucks like Nintendo's kind of punching down that way. I'm still kind of conflicted because like certainly no Nintendo apologist, but I understand like they have a right to protect their IP, which again, it's not copyright infringement, but it feels like to me they wanted to get them on that, but like they're getting them on something smaller. I understand they want to protect their IP. That's like the strength of the company is their IPs. Um, it just sucks that it has to come out in such a gross way. And the vehicle in this instance, which is like the patent infringement, I just think like patents really shouldn't be a thing to this degree. Maybe if it was something way more complex, I could understand. But I mean, just like the one reported patent infringement that we know about is your character throwing a ball at a monster. Like that sucks that that's like something you could like protect and like not allow others to do.
yeah.
It just seems kind of lame to me.
Agreed. That's the reason why. If you remember the Shadow of Mordor games, it's like a Lord of the Rings IP video game. Pretty fun. I actually played them.
I was actually
There
gonna
was a
bring this up.
Nemesis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Nemesis system. Do you want to talk about it?
Well, you go ahead. Actually, you probably know more than me, but I know this is like a mechanic in a similar vein here.
Yeah, it's very similar in terms of the laws that are going on here with this lawsuit. So, in Shadow of Mordor, there was the nemesis system. What that meant is like there was orcs who like kind of became your nemesis and popped up in the open world, and like you had different interactions with them, which were kind of different every time. Like you would encounter your nemesis and say like, "Hey, I've been training a super long time, and I want to battle you right here to the death." And then you'll beat him up and they'll be like, I'll live to see another day, and then he'll escape and come back, and like random events will happen where you encounter more nemesis who have these cool abilities and funny storylines. Really cool system, but it's patented and no one can ever
Yeah.
use it again because those games are done. That frustrates me. That's where my frustration comes with this whole thing,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, that's like exactly what I'm getting at. Is like it sucks that like a cool mechanic can kind of be locked away behind a patent until it expires. But don't worry, guys, it expires in 2035. So we only have to wait 10 more years, and then everyone can start using this gameplay mechanic again. So
Right.
uh, imagine if like Super Mario Bros. Being one of the first 2D side scrollers where the screen scrolls with your character. Imagine if like screen scrolling was patented or something like that. Like
Exactly.
that's how I see like as ridiculous as it could get, where it's like it would stifle innovation in that way, which is kind of like my disagreement with the idea of like patents in video games.
Yeah, I'm in the same spot. I actually have a fun fact for you. Nintendo has actually lost a trademark lawsuit. You know who was it against? Who it was against?
Oh, you mean like recently?
Not well, somewhat recently. Yeah.
I saw something in the news the other day that they lost a, a court case against like a Costa Rican grocery store or something like that was named like Super Mario Market or something like that. Is that what
You
you're
are
getting
exactly right, my friend.
at?
Nintendo's record is not perfect. They have lost to the Super Mario Supermarket. I just thought that was a fun fact that popped up on my on my browser here.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Maybe like put them
Yeah,
in their place a little bit. Stop going after a random grocery store in Latin America. Like I don't think that's really cutting in your profit too much. But
yeah.
anyway, why don't we just go ahead and move on to our next topic? So the next topic we have for today is another thing we've kind of talked about on the show before, but we do have the latest fiscal report from Nintendo. So this report is up through Q3, and of course their year ends in March. So this is everything up through December 31st, 2024. So I always love these. I mean, I work in business. That's my day job. So like I always just like to see like the numbers of kind of what's been going on with the company and kind of like what they're forecasting for the future, that kind of stuff. So I always like to start with software sales. So last year we had Super Mario Jamboree, we had a Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, we had Mario and Luigi, a new game in the Mario and Luigi franchise. So some notable releases last year, and we get some sales updates on those. So looks like the best-selling new software from last year was Super Mario Party Jamboree at around 6 million units, which is really solid. They
Oh
make a
yeah.
comment about how the first 11 weeks of Super Mario Party Jamboree's release was ahead of other Mario parties that released on the Switch, which is cool to see. So it's just like selling quick. It's selling pretty solid. And why don't we just start there? Like, are you surprised at all by the sales of this Mario Party, or did you kind of expect this?
I mean, it's Nintendo, so it kind of always is expected for something like Jamboree to do so well,
Hmm.
in my book. But because you know it's very applicable to the family, right? And there's lots of families out there that like Mario games, mine included. We didn't get Jamboree actually, but did you and your family? Did you play it together?
Yeah, I mean, I played Jamboree and I played a little bit more with my friends. I probably did like one or two games solo, but mostly playing multiplayer, which is kind of the way it's intended to be played. And it's
Yeah.
really good. It's one of the better Mario parties, just bar none. I would just say that right up front. I would put it probably in like the top three or so. And there's definitely like a blind spot in some of my Mario Party career, if you will. But I would say this is definitely the best one on the Switch, and might be better than some of the GameCube and 64 ones, kind of depending on your personal tastes.
Yeah, and I think we did play it together a little bit. I don't remember if we did or not. Did we?
I think so. Maybe
I
one time you were over my place.
I can't remember if we did or not. That is entirely dependent on, like I don't know if I played it. If I did play it, we played it together.
Okay.
I know, I know that for sure because I don't have it. I would have liked to play it, but it doesn't surprise. Back to the original point, it doesn't surprise me at all that it sold up to 6 million units. Like it's Mario, and specifically Mario Party, which is always a slam dunk. Mario
Right.
Kart 8 Deluxe still being up there, no shock at all on that front. That does not shock me even a little bit. It never will.
Yeah. That's the I mean, it's should it be crazy anymore? This was the second best selling game of the fiscal year so far, which is again March 2024 through December 2024. The second best selling game is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This is a game that came out in the first month of the system's launch. And it's up there with games that released this year, brand new games this year, at another 5 million units sold. Like it's just crazy. This game just never dies. It just
It's crazy
constantly
that
sells.
you're totally right. And it's crazy that crazy is not a strong enough adjective. This is one of the most insanely popular games we've ever seen, up there with the likes of, maybe not in the same, necessarily the same ballpark, but like on the same level of love and adoration as like something like GTA or Call of Duty. Definitely more than Call of Duty. Um, it's like Mario Kart is and always will be super beloved, like something like GTA. Um, and
Yeah.
Echoes of Wisdom, I am a little surprised that this one's so high up there because it feels a little more niche, but that niche is younger, the younger generation. And there's lots and lots and lots of children out there with a Switch who want to play a game like this, like you.
Hey,
I'm
all
sorry,
right.
that was mean. I'm sorry, that was so unnecessarily mean. But
I would say like 2D Zelda hasn't hit the apex that 3D Zelda has. Obviously, Breath
yeah,
of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom are just like gargantuan monsters in terms of sales. They're both 20 plus million sales figures for each game. 2D Zelda has not caught on in the same way. I mean, we saw that with the Link's Awakening remake that came out in 2019. They do solid. They do great. Multi-million sellers, but not in the stratosphere of 20 million plus like the 3D Zelda games have been as of late. So this is kind of in line with what I expected. 3.9 million sold. It released in September, so it was only out for 4 months in this report. So pretty solid. It'll creep over 4 million before the end of its life there.
oh yeah,
Another game I
absolutely.
was interested in talking about was Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, selling 2 million units as of its release back in May. And 2 million is pretty good. Don't get me wrong. I just would have loved to have seen it get more than the original Paper Mario that released on Switch, the Origami King. I believe that game sold around 3.1 or 3.2 million units.
Dang.
Um, and I think it benefited from a couple things. One, it came out at like peak Switch, which was 2020 when everyone's kind of sitting at home not doing anything. So it definitely like benefited a little bit from the COVID effect. And it's been out longer, number two. So I think it benefits from that. I just would have liked to see the Thousand Year Door sell more because this is the direction I would want the franchise to go in. And we know Nintendo obviously pays attention to sales. So I would have liked to have
They
seen
sure do.
like this one sell more than the game I didn't like as much. That's kind of just my personal take.
Yeah, I wonder why. It could be like there wasn't that big of a marketing push for it. Is that true?
I mean, I think it's a couple things. It's a remake, number one. And number two,
Fair.
it's towards the end of the Switch's life. The Switch is still very healthy, but it's just not like what it was in 2020 or even before that when it was just like a beast. Like it was just a sales beast back in its peak. It's just like a bell curve. We're just kind of on the downslope now.
Yeah, yeah, it's unfortunate. I definitely would have liked to see it more too, especially now having experienced the absolute freaking masterpiece that this game is. You know,
Yeah.
um, but overall, pretty good year for Nintendo. Pretty good.
Pretty good year. Notably, there was a couple titles that did not crack 1 million, so they only really report the sales on titles that crack 1 million. So some of the ones that released last year, Endless Ocean Luminous, Nintendo World Championships NES Edition, and Emio the Smiling Man did not crack 1 million units as of late or as of, so far. So I don't think that's like too surprising. All of those games I just listed were more niche. They were more like to kind of fill out the year. Um, I would have liked to see Endless Ocean do better, but the game also didn't
Same.
review great. So I kind of understand the lack of sales there. I've been meaning to get around to the Wii games. I know the Wii games are good. This
They're
Switch game
so good.
apparently was a little bit more of a letdown.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's kind of I don't think the development studio was doing much ever since the last Endless Ocean, and I maybe it's just like the they didn't get their message across with what they wanted for the game well enough, or the gameplay didn't. I didn't play it, so I can't really say. But I did play the original Endless Ocean games, especially the Wii one, and that came to me at a very young age, and I loved it. I loved exploring the ocean because I always wanted to do that in real life, and that kind of gave me an outlet for that creativity. Even made me want to be a marine biologist. I'm kind of glad I gave that up though. There ain't too much money in that, but that game gave me such a profound interest in the deep sea, and to this day, I still feel that interest. And my dad also loved it. Like, I highly recommend if you're into like maybe something. I'm gonna say Subnautica, but not nearly that scary. Like, if you like a game like Subnautica, this game is great. Like, it still holds up in my opinion. Diving and trying to find the more rare sea creatures, trying to stay safe and all that stuff. Like,
Yeah.
it's a good game. Not great, but good. And it's unfortunate that this most recent one is less than good. You know.
Yeah, it sucks. I think most people just don't like the lack of content, so that probably didn't help it sales wise.
Yeah.
So other things from this report I would mention, Nintendo's confirmed that the Switch has sold past 150 million units. That's, Switch, Switch Lite, Switch OLED models, combine them all, past 150 million units. That's about 4 million behind the DS and about 9 or 10 million behind the PS2 for all-time best-selling video game hardware. Just crazy to me that it's kind of hit this mark. I mean, it's well deserved. It's had a great life as a console. So no, I mean, should we be surprised that it's been selling as well as it has? Maybe not. Curious on your reactions and if you think it'll ever hit that elusive 159 million mark to jump over the PS2.
Now that the reveal is out for the Switch 2, I think it's much less likely. But this is Nintendo we're talking about. We should never count them out when it comes to selling anything, especially something as good as the Switch. What is more sticking out to me about this 150 million is uh, how a console that is very, very far behind the current hardware still selling that well. Imagine what a Switch will sell, how much a Switch will sell when it has more powerful hardware. Like, that is a
Yeah.
monster, that's a bear waiting to be woken up. That it's just about to wake up, man. And hopefully it is a much stronger console. Hopefully the leakers can be believed, but you never know. We'll wait to see. Just imagine what the Switch 2 is going to be able to do in the same amount of time.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm super stoked for the Switch too, but I will be tracking the sales of the Switch just to see if it ever hits the mark of the PS2
Oh, for sure.
in the next year or so. It obviously doesn't like mean much at the end of the day, but it's just like a cool talking point that I definitely wanted to bring up.
Yeah, I think
So
it's cool as hell.
yeah, I will say this: I am more optimistic than you because I don't think the Switch One is going to go away immediately when the Switch Two is announced. I think we'll still see some first party sales on the Switch One once the Switch 2 is in market. My thinking is like it'll be pretty similar to 2024's game lineup where it'll just be like kind of remakes or ports or stuff where like smaller studios can kind of do their thing. Um, just enough to kind of keep the boat afloat, if you will, for the Switch One. And the reason they would do that is to cater to the audience that's already on the Switch One. And I think they can kind of pivot the Switch One as a lower cost. This is a console you can get for your little one who doesn't care that much about graphics. And then you or someone else that cares more about that stuff, you get the Switch 2. You're ready for the big boy console. So that's kind of how I see it. Also, notably, the Switch One has never really had a price drop in its whole lifespan, which is pretty wild to think about. There's a multitude of reasons for that, but really it's just been that popular that hasn't really necessitated a price drop. So once you cut down the price of Switch One, and you kind of like keep it afloat for another year and a half, I think it will creep over that mark. Last thing I want to say about this is the 3DS, when the Switch released, the 3DS still sold after the Switch was released. And it looks like it sold another 9 million units. So if the 3DS can do it when it was basically like felt very dead once the Switch came out, I think the Switch 1 will definitely do it once the Switch 2 is here.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of nuance because the 3DS is much smaller. So like if somebody wants a really super portable, super small console, they'll
Yeah.
get the 3DS instead of the Switch. But with the Switch is technically smaller than the other Switch, so I guess that kind of applies. Or sorry, the other being the Switch 2. So yeah, honestly, and if it does cover that 159, we'll be covering it here. You'll be hearing it here first. So yeah, I would be shocked, but not too shocked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
So
I think another big takeaway from the report, unless you had anything else, was just the fact that Nintendo, of course, they're selling less Switches, less software than they were a year or two ago. The console's winding down. What's more notable to me is that they missed their forecasts. So their operating profit, they missed by 46% off their forecasted amount, which is pretty significant. Um, and I guess I'm like more curious on kind of the gall behind the forecast, like what was kind of going into that forecast number where you miss it by that much. Like what went wrong there? I'd be curious to know, but I'm not inside Nintendo's HQ. I'm not hearing those decisions, so I don't have much of a comment on that. Just that it was pretty bad how badly they missed their forecast, I should say.
yeah, to me, from as an outsider, something was planned to come out that didn't. What do you think that was?
Well, I would say in this case, Adonis, like a lot of businesses would adjust their forecast for that. Of
True.
course, there's the internal rumors that the Switch 2 was planned for 2024 and then got pushed. But I think at that point, you would update your forecast and like let your investors know, like, hey, we've had material change. Like, we're gonna have to change our forecasted amounts here. Um, I guess I would speculate like they kind of like expected software to sell and software to kind of carry them through 2024 when software did pretty well. We just touched on some of those,
Yeah.
but not as well as maybe they were hoping. This year was packed full of remakes and re-releases. Maybe they were expecting a lot of people to just buy them at release for $60 when consumers are kind of getting a little more peeved about that kind of stuff. They don't want to pay $60 for a game that was produced several years ago and just ported to the Switch, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and we really don't know. There is no way for us to know. And that is a good point, by the way. I didn't really think of that, to be totally honest, that if had they actually meant to release something like the Switch 2 sooner, they would have adjusted. Um, yeah, that's strange. I don't think that will be the case next or sorry, this year, like in the near future. Um, but that will always be there to be like, what happened?
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, well, I kind of expect like the Switch 2 to like release pretty well. We've kind of talked about it enough,
Yeah,
but
pretty.
I think they'll be fine. They'll bounce back, no problem. So,
Oh, wait. There's one thing I want to talk about that it's at the very end.
okay.
Actually, no, it's more towards like the middle of the fiscal report. The official opening of Super Mario World in
Oh yeah.
Universal, Florida. I want to talk about this because I am a huge theme park enjoyer. I love theme parks. I still have a great time in Disney at 25 years old. Literally just went like the earlier last year. Had a great time. And this for me, um, I don't know when, but I will go to this theme park at some point. I'd love for you to come with me. In fact,
Dude,
that may be
let's
a
do it.
requirement. Um, this looks so cool. I don't know if anybody's seen pictures of this theme park. It oozes that Nintendo, that Mario. What's the word?
Charm.
That charm. Yeah, thank you. And not only is it a Mario world, there's also a Donkey Kong Country world.
Yeah, man. That looks awesome.
I don't even know what to say. Like, and no screens, which is also really nice in today's day and age. It is a completely screenless park, as far as I know. I remember seeing that somewhere. Um, It's got a roller coaster. The music's playing everywhere. Like they got, like if that isn't the one of the most CongaCast things I've ever seen in my life, like I don't know what is. We got to
They got
go
a
there.
Donkey Kong. They got a Donkey Kong roller coaster where you're in a mine cart and you're on the mine track. Like that's perfect. That's just it writes itself.
Oh my God.
So,
One
but
day.
I gotta go someday, and maybe with yourself. I love theme parks. I just like don't go out of my way all the time to
Yeah.
go to them. But next time I'm in Florida, I may as well just like stop on by, or like make a little a big weekend out of it, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I'll get around to it someday. I would eat it up. I know that. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I liked Disney enough when I went when I was a 18-year-old for the first time, and I'm not even like a huge Disney person. So like me being a huge Nintendo person, like this would be awesome to go to someday.
Oh my God. Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Well, any other comments on the fiscal report before we get into what we've been playing recently?
No, I think that that covers it pretty good, and I'm really interested to see how the progression goes for this year. It's going to be interesting.
Yes, sir. So I just have one game really
What?
that I've been playing. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just have one game in the past week, since we last talked.
Fair.
And that is still The Last of Us. I've just been enjoying it. I'm about 10 hours into the adventure, and I don't know how long the game goes. I feel like I'm at least halfway. I'm probably a little more than halfway. And again, I've just been enjoying it, man. I'm playing on my Steam Deck. It performs okay on the Steam Deck. Like there's some notable crackle in the audio sometimes. And
Oh.
every once in a while like there's frame dips. I'm not really sure why. I think it's the remastered version that was on PS5 that's been ported to Steam now. So like,
Hmm.
obviously like it can run a PS3 game, but I think it's trying to run a PS5 game. And it has some stutterings here and there. But overall, very good and compatible, controls fine, all that good stuff. And yeah, it's still fantastic. I can't like talk too much about it because it's just so story driven.
Yeah.
But I'll say this without any spoilers. I just really like the characters. I really like the dynamic. I like the setting. I like the interactions between the characters. Like it just feels very realistic in a post-apocalyptic world. When that's kind of unrealistic to have a zombie apocalypse. But
True.
nope, it's all realistic. It's good. I've just been enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a very grounded and really scientifically interesting sort of end of the world scenario, especially with the zombies. Like there's
Yeah,
nothing like The Last of Us zombies, right? With the what's the name of the cordyceps? I think it's called.
they call them clickers.
Clickers, yeah, like it's
Yeah,
such a unique design for a zombie that it is a, zombies are a genre that is played to absolute oblivion, and still
yeah,
they did something super unique with it. I played it when it came out. I'm pretty close to the release of the original game, and that game definitely holds a special place in my heart, as the characters are so well written. The
they are.
Yeah, and the
Yeah,
relationship between Joel and Ellie is what sold the game for me. Like that's why I wanted to play, to see
yeah.
what would happen. And I'm not gonna say anything about the ending, of course, but oh my goodness, you are in for an absolute roller coaster, my friend.
Yeah, I mean, in the intro alone, I'm like, holy crap, like this is good. Like to people that have played, like what happens in the intro. It's just like, oh my gosh, like just
Yeah.
like great, crazy how quickly it pulls you in. I'll say this too, not even story related. The gameplay's really good. Like
Oh yeah.
it's definitely like more narrative driven, and that's what it's known for. The gameplay is really good. I love the survival mechanics of like you got to conserve your ammo a little bit. You always prefer trying to sneak up on someone and like strangling them slowly and quietly so that you stay um uncompromised. But or if you wanted to, you can hit someone with a shiv and it takes them out quicker, but it's a little more loud. um Really good gameplay, really good like stealth mechanics, good shooting. Like the gameplay is really solid too.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I love so much about Dead Space is the survival aspect of it, and not only does it have that, but it also has the stealth system. It's a really fun game to play. And the part 2, like even involves more and makes it even more fun to play.
Nice.
I didn't play the second part because I played a little bit of it and I just didn't love the story. That's a personal thing. I do not think it's a bad game. That's not what I'm saying. Just wasn't for me.
I know it's
Um, I,
divisive. I
yeah,
haven't
it's
played it though.
Yeah, that is where my thoughts end with that game. That is a very big spoiler. But what I'll also say is that when you're done, watch the show. That's it.
Yeah, that's on my radar. So this is what I'm planning. I want to play through Last of Us. Last of Us Part 2 comes out on Steam in April. So I'd like to play through that one as well, as long as it's compatible with, Steam Deck or whatever. I think it will be. Once I'm done that, me and my wife, we want to watch the show because that's been on her radar, and I told her I can't watch it until I play the games. So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm just really enjoying it. Looking forward to part two once I get to it, and looking forward to the show as well. So
Let me let me
the
just
only
say,
other thing before we pivot to you, the only other thing game related I have going on. This
ooh,
isn't even a game I played, but I thought it'd be appropriate for this section here. I don't even know. I'm not trying to flex. This is just like me nerding out about my collection behind me. So
go for
if
it.
you're watching the video, you can see the collection on my bookshelf here. I recently got. I'm going to show the camera. So if you're listening on just
Ooh,
audio, I'm sorry, but I recently got these custom
oh,
cases to hold all my Game Boy and Game Boy Advances. So for example, like if I had like Pokemon Blue here, I've
oh my
never had
God,
a good way to like hold all these cartridges. But now it's like a DS style case that can just kind of hold my game,
look at
and it's got
that.
the original box art. And I just like bought all of them for all my loose Game Boy games, and I don't. I don't even have anything around it. It's just like I like it. I just wanted to share with everyone because I thought it was kind of neat. And I like having the original artwork as well. And like for the first time for all my Game Boy games, I'm like reading the back of the case and like, wow, this is like kind of how they advertise the game, and like this is what was the selling points of the game. And going through my library again and like kind of putting it all together was like really fun. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, you literally saw my reaction. And it's funny because that's the second time I already seen you. You showed us those in our friend group chat, and like just seeing that that artwork, I feel that artwork in my chest, in my heart,
Yeah.
you know. And I can't even imagine, like actually having those. Stop it. See, now you're just playing with my heartstrings. Um, so, if you don't mind me asking, like, what do they charge for something like? Well, let's just say like one of them.
Yeah, so I'm not sponsored, by the way. Let me throw that out there too. But
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
no, it's
on
fine.
customgamecases.com is where I got them off of. They were like $5 each, so
Oh
I was
wow.
fine with the price. Yeah, I mean, like I could. It definitely adds up if you have like a big collection. I have like a medium collection, but
Hmm.
yeah. Now I have like a little case for all my games, and they're all protected. They're not just like hanging out on my shelf like they were before.
Yeah,
And yeah,
I have a lot of discless games that I would love to do that for, and I thought it would be a lot more expensive, but now that I think about it, it really is just like a PNG with like some plastic casing. So that's awesome. I'm really glad you shared that. I actually totally forgotten about that, and it looks so clean. And I bet you it looks clean on that shelf too.
yeah. It came together nicely. I like reorganized everything on the shelf too, which you just have to do at some point. Otherwise, it becomes a little sloppy. So now it
Yeah,
looks sharp again.
yeah. Oh, and what I was gonna say before we you talked about the game cases is that um, it's really nice to hear you say you and your wife are gonna go watch something. Like
That's true.
it's just awesome, man. That brings a slight tear to my eye. Very wholesome.
Yeah, yeah, man.
Um,
Thanks for that.
you're very welcome. So me and my wife were playing, were playing game. This is what I would play with my wife if I had one. Um, what I've been playing, it hasn't changed very much. I've been playing lots of Ash of Creation, like I mentioned. So what has happened for me between last episode and this episode, or not for me, but for Alexander, veteran of the First and Second War, the hero and defender of Halcyon, the strongest pirate, member of the debauchery Tea Party. Um, a lot actually. he so a war happened after the last episode. We lost that war because all of our the Vanguard was offline. We are a very EU centered guild, so the during the non EU hours is when people like to come after us, which it sucks. But the war system is kind of broken. You know, this is an alpha. There's going to be very buggy. You know, which is to be expected. So we lost that war. I wasn't in it because I obviously was recording. But the fallout was pretty sad. Everybody's sad, and we were getting people roasting us in chat. Um, it is what it is, you know. People like to talk smack. But for Alexander, he was devastated, absolutely devastated. He was not there to defend his beloved city of Halcyon, and he took to the wilds. He had to leave to train, to become stronger, to return to Halcyon as a true defender. So he went out into the Sand Squall Desert and fought all of the big monsters out there. Lots of snake people, giant scorpions, um, giant golems, just anything he get his hands on to get stronger. And boy did he get stronger. Got a lot stronger. Got some gear. Got leveled up a little bit. I actually tanked for our guild leader, Mr. Pirate Software, Thor. Great guy. Had a lot of fun doing that. I was so nervous because I was on stream in front of like 10,000 people. That was so nerve wracking, but he kept it super cool the whole time. Just a great leader. The party did not die. None of us wiped, which is great. I died like 4 times, but thus is my duty as a tank. Tank always dies first. There was actually a clip that I got from the stream where we just pulled way too many enemies and like I was taking way too much damage, and I died. And the cleric has an ability that can pick me back up, like a revive. And he revived me, and both in voice and on the chat, I screamed "For Halcyon!" and immediately died again, just instantly.
Oh, that's beautiful. That stirs
Cinema.
up the emotions.
Yeah, exactly. It was so funny. That was a lot of fun. And then um, Alexander felt confident enough to return to Halcyon, and a war was immediately declared again at the same time. But this time he was there. He was there this time to defend. Unfortunately, it was still not enough. There were
No.
at least 200 opposing players that just wiped the floor. Literally, my game wouldn't work because there was too many players. But once the momentum shifts, like if you got a giant group of players and you're moving towards an objective, or at least against like moving towards a smaller group, that bigger group is going to win every time. Now we know, and we got lots of bug reports to do, which like this is what the alpha is all about, right? Like, yeah, we
Yeah.
lost and it sucks again, but I was there to defend, so I did my duty. But you know, we're gonna do lots of bug reports to help them improve the system. Like the war system is broken. Another giant guild can declare war on us within like an hour, which if you do that at like around this time, it's as of recording, it's around 8 p.m. All the EU people are offline. Most of the EU people are offline. So we're going to lose every single time. So that's why we send bug reports and they fix it. It's a really
Hmm.
cool system. Like I actually really love the way they're doing this alpha. So I've been having lots of fun with that. Tons of good RP. RP being role play, you know, like D&D. The other game uh, is the explanation for my current facial predicament. I have eye black on for anybody not watching. Um, I've been playing Helldivers 2. And I've been taking the same approach that I have with Ash of Creation, like fully RP. I played it on stream right before we recorded, and using like actual like movement call signs and like tango down and Roger that Overlord, hard copy, like stuff like that, and been having an absolute blast. Um, so I had like I literally had like my costume on under my sweatshirt. I had like a bandana on, just full decked out, listening to music, playing with viewers. And I think that's going to become my mainstream game because Ashes of Creation doesn't perform very well. Lots of like bugs and all that stuff. Alpha gonna alpha. So Helldivers has been even more fun than I thought it could be. After having included more of an RP like aspect to the game. So I think I'm gonna start. If anybody else plays Helldivers, or if you just want to see what it's like, or you like the art, the role play of the game, feel free to check me out on stream. Stream every day, every weekday, around 4 to 5 p.m. EST. So that's sponsored. You're sponsored by Alexander TV. But, or I guess I'm sponsored by the KongaCast, the other way around, right?
Something
I
like
don't know.
that. One or the
Who
other.
cares? No, everybody stopped listening anyway. So, yeah, I've only been playing those two games. Been having an absolute blast. Like games have only gotten more fun. Like I kind of went in a lull. Like 2020 happened, games were super fun, and then games stopped being fun after that for like 2 years. And now I feel like I'm starting to really enjoy them again because I'm trying all these like unique things, you know?
Yeah.
So
That's the best way to get out of funks. Like when I've had like funks where I just like don't know what to play or I just don't care to play anything. Going outside your comfort zone and like playing something you've never thought you would or a genre you've never really tried. That's the best way of doing it, in my opinion.
agreed. So I think
So
that's all I've been playing. And unfortunately, I think that's the end of the episode, isn't it?
I think that would do it then. Yeah, I think that's it for this edition of KongaCast. Thank you everyone for tuning into this episode. To stay up to date on the show, make sure to follow us on Twitter at KongaCast. For all business inquiries, please email kongacast@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening. Have a great day, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Take care out there. Bye bye.